Well, as the year comes to an end, things aren't looking too good for President Joe Biden. Even his good friends at CNN have got bad news for him.
We have new CNN poll numbers this morning in two critical battleground states. The news is not great for President Biden and his campaign. The numbers show Donald Trump leading in both Georgia and Michigan. In Georgia, a state Biden carried by a very narrow margin in 2020, registered voters say they prefer Trump over Biden by 5%.
Oh dear. I caught up with Kristin Tate in the US to discuss how the president goes into what the Americans call the holiday season with some really ominous polling.
Yes, and I've been reading reports all week for the last week that Biden and his administration, they are getting very nervous by these polls. What's happening here, Chris, is that this election is becoming a referendum on Joe Biden. And up until now, the Democrats have been counting on this being a referendum on Donald Trump, as it was in 2020. They won that election by whipping up the public into this frenzy over Donald Trump being a threat to democracy and, the insurrection of January 6th. And at this point, they have been panicking constantly every day for years. Like, people hear this stuff now about threats to democracy and Donald Trump, and they just kind of yawn and roll their eyes. And instead, they're thinking about the fact that every time they go to the grocery store, they can barely afford to buy, milk and chicken for dinner. The Joe Biden administration has made life in the United States worse in every measurable way. And that is what this election has become about. And at the same time, of course, as we talk about all the time on the show, Joe Biden is, becoming more entrenched by the day in his family scandals. So it's not looking good for Joe Biden.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, those cost of living issues always bite hard in politics. We're seeing that play out in Australia this year as well. But we keep talking also about how Joe Biden is so accident prone. And I've got to show this clip where Joe Biden is just going to his car and the reporter's yelling out to him that he's looking like he's got a lot of trouble in the polls. He tells them that they're reading the polls all wrong. And then we have an accident. Have a look.
Mr. President, why are you losing to Trump in the polls?
Yeah, Kristin, and a car crashed into the back of the presidential motorcade. It's all okay. You can see the Secret Service officers are worried, of course, as you are in this day and age. But it's just typical of Joe Biden, isn't it, at the moment? The polls plunging, him in denial, and boom, crash.
Yes, it's very emblematic for what's going on right now with this president. I know people in Democrat elite circles are just desperate to get him to step aside and replace him with somebody. And that very well may happen, which I know has been your prediction, Chris. But there is a chance that this man is just so desperate to cling on to power that he'll refuse to step aside. I mean, Joe Biden has wanted to become president since he was, born. The day he was born, he wanted to become president, it seems. So I'm not sure he's going to step aside so easily. We'll find out. But if he wants to stay and he refuses to go, the Democrats have a real problem. And the only thing they can do is just try to make Trump so terrifying to suburban voters and independents that they will just hold their nose and vote for Biden. But I'm just not sure that's going to work this time around like it did last time.